The libertinism, that sort of philosophy or that ethic, that is typically in response to a world and a childhood that wasn't very self-esteeming, that wasn't accepting of our own ability to do kind things and beneficial things for ourselves. So we may end up using strategies that are at odds with treating ourselves well, too,
Yeah, not that drinking in moderation or smoking pot in moderation, or I'm not sex negative in any way, but when you see those things being done in excess, it seems like those practices could often be related to the continuous effort to fill some kind of hole, to quiet some kind of voice, to deny some aspects of self.
Or to be this rebellious response to this moralism or these pedantic notions of morality, kind of the prudish stuff, basically. Because if we live in a world where the self is denied and attacked and not honored, not accepted, then you get like this strange mix. You get either this prudishness and denial of self, and then all the covert fetishes that result from that, like preachers and the politicians that rail against homosexuality or something, and behind closed doors they're performing those same acts. So you get all that hypocrisy going on, and then you get the rebelliousness to say, oh no, I'm not going to live that sort of straight-laced life. I'm going to show you, and just indulge and indulge and indulge to the point where you're really not helping yourself.
No, I mean, I can certainly understand that too, right? Like it sounds funny to say, but it's self-denial, 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 and then one day you just walk into the airport and you say, I'm going to have some kind of sexual interaction in the men's room, right? Because you can't maintain that anymore, right? You can't maintain that self-denial, and it bursts out in some kind of high-risk kind of behavior, especially if you're a public figure. Now, when all that happened, I forget that guy's Larry Craig. When all that happened, ha ha ha, look at this Republican congressman. But I totally understand that if you are only doing self-denial and not engaged in healthy practices to somehow meter negative impulses or foster positive, healthy behavior, yeah, bad things happen. Sometimes, the will just gives out. And it's really the result of self-denial. I can't stress that enough. Or the non-acknowledgement of feelings, needs, desires, fears, whatever it is.
Yeah, we want to be guided by principles that are sound and that really help ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we're denying the self or not accepting of ourselves, then we end up doing things that really aren't in our self-interest. May be pleasurable in the moment, but they could add up to a world of pain, ultimately. And so to look at the pleasures that are actually healthy and life-enriching versus the ones that are denying self, not so self-affirming, but rather self-negating. I think that's a useful distinction to make in this realm, because, there's this phrase that you got to have some vices if you're going to live a great life. But what is the nature of vice, Is vice seen as something that actually degrades the self or denies the self, or somehow, the guilty pleasures thing?
Well, vice is a word that implies a lot, right? Like vice,
yeah.
The word vice, especially if you know your way around the tool shed, a vice has a very negative connotation, to
make
apply,
it immovable, right?
Yeah, an uncomfortable pressure. If you've seen the movie Casino, Joe Pesci used one to pop a man's eye out of his head. So not a real positive connotation with that word. But the interesting thing about Las Vegas, what's their big travel marketing slogan? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
There you go.
Okay, well, I don't think there should be just this tremendous preponderance of that kind of behavior there if it doesn't exist elsewhere in life. How is that different from the men's room at the airport, right? Like, this is a place...
Yeah, it is. It's a giant men's room at the airport. I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, where you give in on self-denial. So it's like, instead of finding a more even and healthy balance, you're just saying, here's the place where you go nuts.
Again, it doesn't need to be this isolated place where we experience pleasure. And I would say, in addition to that, to really connect with the self-acceptance and self-love is important too. So then we can combine the love and the pleasures, doing kind of things for self and others and experiencing just amazing things, really is win-win in that respect. So it's not like pleasure is divorced from something that's sensible and reasonable and healthy. Yeah, it does come back to that foundation of self-acceptance.